Okay, hey, train your plants every day. Jordan Scoville coming at you from the STEM lab. Now, yesterday or the day before there, I was doing a STEM resume. And I did want to cover some of those things in case, any potential employers may want to look into that kind of a thing, look into me for being a worker. And, one of those things that I had to do on my last phone interview there was I had to tell the guy about probation, what I'm arrested for, growing marijuana, and a lot of other things. Um, Actually, that's where I kind of began my whole STEM mechanics, seed elements of STEM mechanics and swag processes. But I don't want to begin there. It's one of those things that I had a swag incorporated business model of landscaping, carpentry, small plumbing, electrician, aspects like that. Even to come in and do time scale systems and just general observations, how to make, you would be surprised just, how to shovel up a pile of stuff and mark time systems for it about what the machinery is doing around it so you can in and out of those systems managerially. It's a swag process like anything else, essentially. That's the idea. There's a lot more to it, but of course I never got paid for any of those things. I've never really achieved a managerial position because I really haven't stayed at a company long enough for lots of different reasons, which we're not going to get into right here. You need some specifics, and I'm not here to bash anybody specifically. I'm here to build myself up. Now you would think, well, Jordan, why are you putting a resume out there concerning your marijuana garden? Well, you can't ever, as a general, have defeat. In this nation, it's one of those aspects that there's always something positive in what you do. And for me, it's psychology, it's physics, it's botany in this case, it's managerial skills, there's a lot of stuff that goes into these aspects. And for me, I just didn't have no regular, garden. I actually went high scale with it. I actually did a lot of really cool things, bonsais, working string theory processes. I started my garden, well, before we get too far down the rabbit hole here, I just want to cover a few other things. For me, I began my process knowing that I was potentially going to get nailed for it. It was always a model on my mind. It just didn't go down the rabbit hole the way I wanted it to. Here I'm a prisoner of this warring aspect. And hey, I get it. It's one of those things in the legal concept. You start tipping, you open up the floodgates and it's going to get out of control. With that being said, I didn't ever get recruited into this. There really wasn't too much. So I got a lot of other programs that I was working on with the IMA. I'm a manager, I'm a saw guy, I'm a general laborer. When you do it for a higher pretense or a higher concept, they're all in there, again, at that STEM, seed elements that grow into managerial skills, that grow into physics skills or psychology skills, or whatever swag you're dealing with. It doesn't necessarily need to be the green. Could be corn. I've been working on a psychology thesis that involves working corn. It's an analyzation process of how you integrate your own mechanics into this. Your home life, how you go out on the weekends, because that's going to resolve in a better plant. Your company. So, my opening line here, hey, train your plants every day. I'm not just talking about corn or marijuana. I'm talking about all your skills, all your developmental pretenses, because they happen causally. Right now, psychology. Right now, physics. We're dealing with a lot of physical points that make up who I am and what I do. That really you can't say, only at the quantum level, the particles there, so the wave function starts to break down, and when you measure the wave function, it's made up of a bunch of little particles, right? So you got to be able to take advantage of a lot of those things. And in my marijuana garden, I did. Now, I'd since wiped all that out. My whole entire video log on a lot of what that was. I was from damn near seed to fully development. But to be honest, I skipped a lot of the seed stuff because that's usually where the hard part is. After that, it's pretty much grow it and maintain it to a certain degree after those points. But I had full on, every single one of my plants were bonsais. I'm talking, I had an 8-foot sativa, I had 2 foot, or excuse me, 3 foot indies that were fully developed. We're talking some plants that were, almost 200, 300 days old. So it was a heartbreaker for me to lose them. I didn't take all the considerations in mind, but at the same time, hey, if you don't take risks, there are no rewards for them. And, my circumstances, I'd been applying to a lot of places and I got tired of it. And you look around and it's one of those things. I said, screw it. It's money. I'm good at it. Let's do it. So, with that being said, somebody come in and raided half my garden on me, stole some of my plants, and then the next day I got arrested. That's what it was. And I certainly didn't put up no fight, no nothing like that. I told them, hey, you can look at my internet, you'll see every plant that I had, every walkthrough that I did, how I was controlling the fungus, the powdery mildew and the bud rot, and actually working my nutrient systems, which I was fully organic and I was doing really good. Really low costs. Physical watering, I didn't have my own irrigation, so I was watering them every day, every other day, something like that. I'm talking 50 to 100 gallons with a 2-gallon water jug. I was thumping it. Raking my system, weeding them, trimming them. Like I said, those were all full bonsais. And if anybody ever wants that didn't ever get to really see any of my videos, I do have a few pictures left over. I mean, I didn't have the heart to get rid of all of them, but we're talking full-on Higgs structuring, 0-point energy to determine certain growth patterns that are very developed, and in a way to maximize a plant so it can be re-vegged, a fully cloned system, so that way from bottom growth to complete where the cola is, there was no wasted having to trim off anything before flower development. I maxed out all my spectrums and ranges and, my seasonal conditions and everything like that, which it's a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of maintenance that you have to do with those kinds of plants. I just didn't stick a seed out in the ground and let it grow. Every single one of my plants were absolutely worked to just about the maximum that you can work a plant within a season. With that being said, I started them all from CFL lights, a couple of 100-watt, CFLs, nothing really, but just to get them started and get them going. My two major mother plants, I started them in an 18 by 18 by 30 CFL box. I had them out in before, or the early part of April. I had them all draped up in outside plastic domes and stuff like that. Had them sexed real early. I can sex in about a week, and then get them right back without having to worry about re-vegging them or anything like that. A lot of internet pounding, just everything, and then just advancing those kinds of skills and techniques, so I didn't have to do anything with that. And again, a full-on clone army. I can do really simple anything clone, really. I can clone lilacs now, I can clone apple trees, I can clone just about anything that you want to do in terms of a greenhouse or botany, which didn't come from necessarily just the marijuana department, but again, using a lot of those secondary skills, looking at some gardening apps for, there's a bunch of them out there that just take all kinds of different plants, when to seasonally do them, and learning from those skills to better what techniques that I used for what I did. And I learned a whole bunch about it. I can do it without compound with like an 80-90% success rate. I was working on seeding crops, on feminized crops, feminized seeds, regular seeds. What else did I have there? And again, just working a continual clone model with those little 18 by 18 reactors that I was doing. Just cardboard, cardboard, aluminum foil, and a milk jug full of water, and you can. With 2 of those boxes, I made over 100 plants, ranging from 8 foot tall to just little guys that didn't quite make it that season. For outside light when I made the transition, or had to work them into different pots for a while, and then air root some of them. I can air root. I could probably more than likely take a bonsai and do exposed roots. I can do whatever kind of physical structure that you want. I had really nice 4 mains that come off and then went into, I don't know how many. Some of them, my main mother plant that I did for Indy, she was gorgeous. It broke my heart when they come and took her on me. It really did. I had it all trimmed up, but it was one of those things. The funniest thing for me is when I got caught. You know, they come and they saw my dry room, right? And I had it all set up, and they go, "Wow, there's way more than 20 plants in here." I'm like, "No, there's not. You know, that's all that was in there. You know." And I was like, "Well, no, there's way more. No, dude, just check out my internet. There's all the plants there were. What you see is me segmenting those things, which you're kind of used to, is just somebody throwing one of those plants out there, and you might get this off of them because they don't take care of them. They don't water them. They don't feed them correctly. And you know, when you don't do that right, you're just going to get shaky, nasty bud. When you don't consider a lot of what those parallel calculations be, all your employees are going to be stupid. I'm sorry to break that to you. It's just the way it is. For me, stupid gets you fired. You know, not without mentioning any names, but all of them, every single job I've ever done, up until recently, high as a bird. I've never been fired. Hanging off gantries, you know, working CNC machines, and not just me, mind you. This is the company. You know, a lot of these, they don't drug test you or nothing like that, but they'll hire you in. It's just the way of the world. You know, I was working on changing the legal aspects as well. The business model was there with full documentation, actually doing video logs, and being able to, you don't really need to do the numbers pre-logged, you know, for what the legal is asking you to do. They just want what? I want every planet you did, hang it up, dry it, weigh it all on video so I can see stick, 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 stick. We're good. Everything was here. You're not trying to screw me. Take it down to the local town hall or whatever. This was my plan for it because, you know, people need model. And this does absolutely reference the American model as well. It's going to reference survival of the fittest as well. You know, if you can't keep up with these numbers, if you don't regiment your life to these aspects, and we're talking 9 months in some cases, down to 3 months, you know, you're going to need at least, you know, what, 3, 4 months. It's going to take 3 months for it to fully flower or something like that, if I'm correct. And at least a good 2 weeks to a month to get it going from baby, even if that's a clone. You know, this is a long process. And the numbers can be done pretty easily given your square footage, and then you're just trying to make them radioactive. You know, you're just trying to increase your weight. You know, keep an eye on your seasonal aspects, so I can say, well, I had this, but I'm getting rain, so I'll keep it off a couple of days. And there's really no way to properly max that system out just by doing naturals, because you got to trim so much off in a certain time frame. And you know, that's why I worked my Higgs structure. That's why I was doing those full-on bonsais with naturals. You take them, you bend them over, and then you're just stringing and strapping everything down, whether it be in the bucket or outside, trimming leaves and cropping leaves, and actually growing a clone to a certain size, cutting that off, making sure that, you know, the mechanical structure that follows the mathematics there, that 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, or whatever, works out. So you'll have, you know, 2 clones at first, and you hit them as soon as they grow, and then in the next set you'll have 4, and then you run them, and then you'll have 15 or whatever when you get out to that far, and it'll follow a very specific mathematical structure as long as you're compensating gravity and light and everything like that. Now obviously some sides are going to be weaker given the penetration levels that you have for certain lights, or the spectrum gain that you're dealing with for height ranges and cola systems, and all kinds of other things, what you're feeding it, how often you're watering it, you know, storm conditions, and all those other things. So it's really kind of an impossible thing other than to just document. But it can be zeroed out just like anything else, just like a gantry saw, just like corn, just like, you know, anything out there. And it was my kind of goal to go ahead and do something like that. And again, I had an awesome garden. It was crazy. You know, we're talking, I had colas. I had 18-inch, 24-inch cola branches that were just solid. And it broke my heart because I had to cut them early. Somebody stole a lot of it. So I didn't want them to come back. And then as soon as I did, somebody come in and hit me. So, you know, that was my model. I needed that stuff. It was going to be my car, payments for the house, you know, and things like that, Christmas. But, you know, it kind of killed me that I couldn't really do any of those things. I'm a good guy, don't get me wrong. This is my first defense and things like that. And, you know, I look at it like, hey, you know, New York don't like that. It's one of those things when they send you off to drug and alcohol or something like that. Well, are you dependent? Well, can I move to California after this 3 years is up? Because, I mean, One of those things. Catch you on the next one.